Righty-ho, folks. Welcome to Bet On You with your host and author, Laban Michael Ditchburn. Thanks for tuning in for Chapter 8 and 9 today. Man, this is some outrageous stuff. This is some real controversial stuff, particularly for any ex-girlfriends out there, particularly one ex-girlfriend in particular. For those who don't know, Laban Ditchburn, world's best courage coach, and I teach people how to take bold, massive, and strategically courageous action to facilitate miraculous outcomes. But today I want to read you 2 chapters, and we'll have a bit of a discussion at the end about that. Bet On You is available on Kindle and paperback on Amazon and in my voice on Audible, which I've been repeatedly told that is the best way to consume this book, particularly for my American and Canadian fans out there who are fans of Australian accents. And I've got to say, when I'm travelling in the US, I'll likely ham up me bloody Australian accent just to get away with a few more things. In fact, I remember one particular time, this is about 12 years ago, and I was in Texas. I just arrived there, I picked up my rental car, and I was in a place called New Braunfels, which is like a 45-minute drive from Austin. And I was driving through KFC, and the days that I used to eat KFC, and I made my order, I forget what it was exactly, and I got through to pick it up, and they were like, "Sir, we gave you a large potato and gravy because we love your accent." I thought that was pretty funny. And I recall falling asleep on the motel bed with gravy down my front of my chest. A big day, big day. Okay, to it. Bet On You. This is Hong Kong Fooey. In 2015, during a planned vacation across China, I performed what must be known as one of the most outrageous acts of infidelity ever committed. I was in a Tinder-inspired relationship that was nearing 12 months and had been rocky for quite some time. She and I shared a deeply dysfunctional relationship that was made worse by alcohol-fueled fights that would make Ike and Tina Turner blush. No physical exchanges ever took place, but we all know the tongue can often inflict just as much damage as a fist. One example argument started over something I'll never remember, but ended with me demanding that we play a super aggressive game of marry, fuck, kill. If you've never played, it involves being given 3 different, usually famous people. Of those 3, you must then choose which one you would marry, fuck, and kill. Totally fictional, of course, and usually played with great humour and spirit. Except on that particular occasion when I was filthy angry at her and out for maximum hurt. I carefully chose my 3 options. My belligerent and red wine-stained mouth yelling at the top of my voice and proudly declaring that I would marry Satan, fuck Hitler, and kill her. I know. It's outrageous and totally inappropriate. But hey, it happened. So what am I going to do, right? Her look of confusion, disbelief, and then blind rage reminded me of that Michael Jackson video clip, Black or White, when those people's faces morph into the next person's. Except these faces weren't happy ones. By some miracle of Christ, we patched things up enough to go on our holiday together. A 5-city trip that started in Shanghai, meandered through Beijing, Chongqing and Shenzhen, and ended in Hong Kong. I stuck one up the Chinese Communist Party by checking in on the Great Wall using a banned Facebook app. You rebel, Laban. Our time together was civil enough. We even managed a few decent moments together. There were 4 days of my explosive stomach flu that my ex had to contend with, so I suppose the only way to repay her generosity was to cheat on her. With the gastro in full remission, we were on our final leg of the trip in Hong Kong, staying with a good friend of mine who lived there. He kindly offered up his bedroom and arranged a final day junket, or junk for short. A junk is a boat that is loaded with food, booze, and music, and you enjoy the freedom that being on the water provides, whilst taking on as much free alcohol as possible. Any responsible service of alcohol goes out the window, and plenty of yahooing and frivolity is had by all. A rabble of us enjoyed the festivities, and we made the most of the short time we still had in Hong Kong. The junk ended at sunset, and we all left to go back to our host party to continue the party. We all left to go back to our host place to continue the party. Throughout the entire China trip, during moments of weakness and general curiosity, I had intermittently downloaded the popular dating app Tinder. I'm not sure what I was looking for specifically, but it was probably more attention than anything. There were plenty of seemingly lonely women that worked and lived all across China who were seeking interactions with a nice guy. And as a single Anglo-Saxon man, I was somewhat of a rarity. It seemed, for I had no trouble matching online with those who had reciprocated. I excused myself from the main party and slinked off to the bathroom. In my drunken state, I sat down to pee, using the sit-down position to my advantage. I began to swipe right on the app, not my bum, and was immediately matched with an attractive lass. A few risque messages were sent to test the waters, as there was no point beating around the bush with the time constraints in place. We were flying back to Australia the next morning on a red-eye, and time was of the essence. The Tinderella was English, but had worked in Hong Kong as a time-poor executive. She was obviously more open-minded than I realised. I'm still astounded at how quick it all happened. Within minutes, a few cheeky messages had turned into an invite to her place for a nightcap. To enhance my credibility further, I told the mystery woman I was a professional voiceover artist who had a flight to Spain, muchas gracias, in 4 hours to record a really important television commercial. That helped explain why I couldn't stay long. She was totally fine with that, and no podía creer mi suerte. I couldn't believe my luck. My real partner was tired from the day's events and had gone to bed to sleep it off. The flight back to Melbourne was super early, and she had made me promise I wouldn't be too much longer. Of course, I solemnly swore. I tiptoed into the bedroom to grab my wallet, a fresh shirt, and a few pumps of aftershave, bought for me by my girlfriend. I told my mate that I was heading downstairs to get some more lemonade and ice for our vodka. He was caught up in his own dance party and had just nodded in approval. Hailing a taxi, I showed the cab driver the address. We pulled up to the apartment complex in less than 10 minutes, and I quickly realised the enormity of the situation. I'm on holiday with my girlfriend in a foreign country trying to repair what's left of our relationship, and I'm about to booty call some random lass on a dating app? Oh my God, you horrible bastard, I thought, smiling to myself and then proceeding to ring the doorbell. My self-loathing never really stopped me from self-destructive behaviour before, so why should it start? In the interest of keeping this PG, a few drinks were had to acquaint ourselves, and the deed was done. A quick shower at my lover's house, and before I knew it, I was back in a taxi on my way back to my mate's house and my sleeping girlfriend. At least that's what I thought she was doing. I arrived home to find the party over, so I slinked back into the bedroom, hoping not to awaken my sleeping beauty. I should not have worried, as my sleeping beauty was bolt upright in bed and more awake than ever. "Where the hell have you been?" she demanded. I had been gone for over 2 hours at that point. The local shop was less than a minute walk away from the apartment, so I had about 118 minutes of lost time to account for. "Oh, hey babe," I said, downplaying the situation. "I got chatting with some crazy Irish guys and the time just got carried away." Lying must release its own vibrational frequency because she could sense it a mile away. She wasn't buying it for a second. "Why did you put on aftershave and change your shirt?" I was smelly? I asked the question for both of us, my voice inflecting upwards, thus indicating bullshit. "You've been at a brothel, haven't you?" She screamed. Now, the good news was that I had not been at a brothel. So with all the conviction of a Bill Clinton impeachment hearing, I stood there with my hand on my heart and declared to her the following. "I do not have sexual relations with a prostitute at that brothel. Damn, you're good, I arrogantly thought to myself, drifting off and imagining an Academy Award for my once-in-a-generation performance. In reality, the situation was more like a Razzie, the award for the worst film of the year. Obviously devastated, she conceded and rolled over, pretending to go back to sleep. A pounding headache and an ice-cold death stare is a terrible way to wake up. Our taxi ride to the airport was equally frosty. As soon as we arrived, she went her separate way and rebooked our seating so that we were as far apart as physically possible. Not surprisingly, we broke up within days of arriving back. She believed and accepted my terrible lie about the Irish lads and was keen to try and repair things. But I called it off, as it was clear by now I had zero respect for myself, let alone her. She didn't deserve to be treated like that, so ending it was the best option in my humble opinion. And just in case my ex-girlfriend happens to learn the actual truth via reading this, I am truly sorry for my behaviour and I hope you can forgive me. I'll strategically leave this here. Helpful reading. Forgive for Good. A proven prescription for health and happiness by Dr. Fred Luskin. Wow. Some heavy stuff, man. I'm not looking forward to getting the for her to find that out. It was a pretty terrible thing, very terrible thing to do. But it was just really a reflection of where I was at in my life, right? Like, it was just indicative of the very low levels of self-respect that I had, and I see this behaviour a lot in society, particularly once you go through it, and you start to come out the other side. I don't know exactly what's happened. I haven't really thought about it too much, but there's something energetically that shifts when you start respecting yourself. You automatically start attracting other people that place a lot of emphasis on the respect, and that's made a profound difference in my life, one I'm very grateful for again. I said I was going to read chapter 9 as well, and I'm going to read this. This is a completely different track. This is called The Angel of Death. And we're going to switch it back a few years on the calendar. For a not quite 3-year-old, I was a cheeky little bugger and incredibly mobile. We lived 2 doors down from the local dairy, milk bar or corner store, depending on what part of the world you were in. I would often steal coins from my mother's milk money jar and tootle up the road where they would sell me an assortment of cheap candies, smokers, milk bottles, aniseed drops, Eskimos, now renamed Inuit due to racist connotations, and Coke bottles, a jelly substance that tasted like cola but contained no cola. The shopkeepers knew my parents well, but incorrectly assumed it was perfectly acceptable to sell me these diabolical treats. Christ only knows the impact on a toddler who consumes all that sugar, but that's easily another story/lawsuit altogether. It's not like Mum and Dad encouraged this behaviour. They locked me behind a gate that separated the street from our driveway. About 6 foot tall and made of treated wood panels, its horizontal stabilising beam made a great platform to climb over. The argument around whether we evolved from monkeys is still hotly contested, but if you'd seen the way in which I ascended that fence, you'd be well within your rights to clasp your hands together and proudly proclaim, "Well, that settles it, we came from monkeys." I would scale that thing with Spider-Man-like agility, leveraging myself over the top to drop down 6 feet onto the grass verge below. If attempted by a mature adult, both kneecaps would explode out the front of their legs like a scene from Saving Private Ryan. But if I'd go, knees intact, and within seconds, I'd literally be a kid in a candy store. On one special mission, I fell awkwardly when dismounting on the other side of the fence and banged my head. My distraught mother came and rescued me, dusted me off and sent me to bed to sleep it off. I woke the next day displaying flu-like symptoms. I had a raised temperature and I didn't enjoy being exposed to light very much. Dad was away for business at the time, so Mum took me down to the local GP where I was quickly diagnosed with a fever, given some paracetamol and told to go home. "Doctor knows best," So Mum brought me home and again sent me to bed. Over the next 5 days, my condition deteriorated dramatically. My eyes involuntarily rolled back into my head, my neck stiffened and contorted into an awkward and painful manner, and that sensitivity to light became intolerable. Mum had called the doctor's office again and was told the same thing. "It's probably a fever. Just give it a few days to sort it out." I was inconsolable, and Mum was at her wit's end. She called my father, relayed the symptoms to him, and he immediately jumped on the next plane back home. I was taken to the emergency department of Canterbury's premier hospital located in the heart of Christchurch. It was an amazing facility with state-of-the-art equipment, the best of breed available in the South Island of New Zealand at the time. And at that stage, I had been displaying severe symptoms for 5 days straight. Any parent this day and age would be able to jump online and within seconds work out that their child was minutes away from death, or easily conclude that what their child actually had was harmless. It's usually the former based on my experience. And more than 2 hours passed, and we were still waiting to be seen by the doctor. My temperature was sky high and my photosensitivity so acute that my eyes needed a spare jumper to block out all the light. An orderly happened to walk past where Mum, Dad and I were waiting. He caught a quick glimpse of me and without taking the time to introduce himself, demanded loudly, "How long has that child been like that?" Mum, looking up, seeking any solace at this point, and replied desperately, "My son has been like this for 5 days." The orderly looked in her eye and said in a firm but caring manner, "Wait here, do not go anywhere." When you're that frightened, you tend to do what you're told, so she did. The orderly then disappeared into the bowels of the red and white painted emergency surgery area. A voice boomed over the intercom and reverberated down the corridors. "Code blue, ER, code blue, ER." I was rushed into an operating room and immediately administered a 5-inch lumbar puncture plunged straight into my backbone without anaesthetic, the excuse being that there was not enough time to give me the pain relief usually received. My blood-curdling screams ricocheted across the entire length of the hospital ward. To this day, the thought still sends shivers down the spines of both my parents, which is ironic because that's where they stick you with the needle. The results of the spinal tap revealed some serious shit. Advanced bacterial meningitis. Bacterial meningitis being the most severe of meningitis. It can lead to death or permanent disability within hours. Meningitis affects the meninges, the membranes that surround the brain and the spinal cord, and protect the central nervous system together with the cerebrospinal fluid. The doctor explained that the bump on my head from the fall likely allowed a vulnerability in my immune system for the bacteria to flourish. My condition was severe and everyone knew it. My father grabbed the doctor by his white coat sleeve and desperately demanded to know when I would be okay to come home. "Mr. Ditchburn," he yelled, "I can't guarantee your child will live through the night." Blindsided by the news, my father panicked and started wailing. "He's going to end up maimed or brain damaged, I just know it." My mother had other ideas and thumped her fist into my father's chest and yelled back at him with all her lung power. "Our son is going to live," she insisted. In my life, I have witnessed enough amazing events to know that someone is looking after me. I'm sure you have the same when you really think about it. My devoutly religious mother rallied her local church to arrange a candlelit vigil. Even non-believers started praying to Allah, Buddha and Jesus in the faint hope that maybe, just maybe, one of them might help. My nana, Andrea Henderson, who was easily an angel on earth but hardly ultra-religious, had her own God moment. She spoke of a vision of me being lifted up and surrounded by angels who gently reassured her that I was going to be fine. Thank you, Nana. I appreciate that tremendously. Within hardly any time at all, and by the grace of someone, I recovered with no physical side effects and no obvious brain damage, although some of my former high school teachers might politely disagree on the latter. Laban's random lessons. Parents, install better gates for your children. Well, that too, but the other obvious lesson here is as follows. It's a bloody miracle that we're even here. Life can be snuffed out without a moment's notice. If you were to die tomorrow, what would you hope you achieved during your time on earth? Would I have hoped to Write that book. Climb that mountain. Forgive that person. Run that marathon. Lose that weight. Quit those ciggies. Date that person. Write that song. Leave a positive impact on the world. Make the world a better place. And Pope Paul VI said, somebody should tell us right at the start of our lives that we are dying. Then we might live life to the limit every minute of every day. Do it, I say. Whatever you want to do, do it now. There are only so many tomorrows. So in the time that the book was published and now, what I've come to learn is that I received the MMR vaccine as a nearly 4-year-old, right before I got bacterial meningitis. And this is only a coincidence, but it's a pretty big one. Bacterial meningitis is a known rare side effect of MMR vaccine. And it turns out it's not as rare as they make it out to be. So parents, just something to consider there. Very controversial subject, I realise, but the bump on the head with the immune thing, like none of it makes any biological sense to anyone, any science experts that I've spoken to about this. So it's just an interesting one. Anyway, folks, thank you for tuning in today. This the feedback I've been receiving, I appreciate all your comments and your messages or whatever, text messages, whatever. I will continue to go through this, and there's a total of 22 chapters, so the next one will be probably tomorrow, depending on the schedule. And that's it, really, folks. I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow. If you want to get the book, it's available on Amazon in whichever country you are within reason. If you can't get a copy where you are, reach out to me and let me know, and I'll see what we can arrange. International shipping at the moment is killer. It's killer, but we can make something happen. It's worth it. The book's worth it, especially if you know anyone that's gone through addiction, or if you're going through addiction of yourself. There's a lot of parallels for anyone going through any form of addiction there. So if you're not having a great day, I'd encourage you to do so. And if you are, well, keep up the good work, would you?